Welcome, guys. So great to have you here. So yeah, now we will dwell a little bit more into the digital fashion topic, as we have three actually very different experiences and fields in here. So in order to show you where you come from, I would actually ask a quick round of introduction. And what does, just a quick question as well, what does digital fashion really mean for you, as you all come from so different ways? So, Kerli, you can go first.
I thought you were actually going to do the introduction. I'm Kerli. I am mostly probably known as a musician, but I'm actually a fashion designer as well, a character designer. I direct my own videos, so I would consider myself as much a visual artist as I am a musical artist. And yeah, digital fashion just giving me a lot of just new imaginations, new ideas, and just also new interesting ways to do a campaign. Should we talk about it briefly now or a little later?
Yeah, we'll delve into that a bit later. Thank you so much. George.
Hello, everyone. Happy to be on stage, and thank you for the invitation. I'm George, been in blockchain since 2016, building products. Also a co-founder of Mint Ventures XYZ. It's a venture studio on the mission to bring brands closer to Web3. And we do this through product development and research, but also a lot of our activities about education. And we also started our own kind of academy where we teach as well brands how to monetize in Web3. That's for me in the short introduction.
Thank you. Fo?
Hi, everyone. I'm Fo. I spent the past 10 years working in supply chains. Most of my clients are part of the LVMH and Kering group, so we run production lines for brands like Prada and Armani. And we use digital transformation and 3D. Hopefully I'm going to get a chance to explain how we're using that right now and how we're going to be using more of that in the future.
Thank you. Yeah, so maybe just to continue on that, Fo, how is digital fashion really being implemented right now in the fashion industry, and is it really something of a realistic thing for you?
Yeah, great question. I think realistic is a key word there. Maybe as consumers, what you see as digital transformation in fashion with the metaverse and avatars and VR and AR is not really a reality for us in the supply chain. We are implementing 3D sampling, as Kirki was saying earlier. I think one of the questions was about how that speeds us up in terms of time to market. And we can cut off about 4 to 5 months of our product's time to market using 3D. So Kirki gave a really good metric earlier, 12 to 18 months. We're trying to look to actually half that with 3D development. But what's stopping us right now is the suppliers having the knowledge of how to use the tool correctly. But I think the biggest thing in the industry right now is this disconnect between consumers wanting this digital experience and wanting to accelerate us, and then us at the supply chain stage, not having the knowledge, not having the tools, and we can't accelerate enough to fulfill that because we're busy building products and production lines and worrying about margins. And we're embedded with tradition and culture. Because if any of you are wearing a T-shirt today and you bought it in Estonia or Italy, it probably started off in India or Pakistan. And so maybe their understanding and knowledge of digital transformation and 3D tools is very different from ours in European countries.
Yeah, and George, we can already see some fashion brands really have accelerated that in being in the Web3. So is that just a short-term hype, what do you reckon, or is there value in there?
Well, another great question, of course. We've been actually asked a lot, like, where's the real value for NFTs in the space? And I think Tom Cruise actually said it, where's the money, right? So this is something that we need to always present to brands. But if you put it in perspective, if you're actually able to sell a dress for €100 and you can actually sell a digital twin through Web3 for another €100, you actually make a double in revenue. So this is kind of the conversation we're actually having with brands. And the other aspect is the Web3 is about retention and and basically activation. So brands are actually having those conversations all the time. They just look for new ways and new technologies to be built. And actually Web3 can offer that, because if you are now a brand and you spend money on ads and analytics and so forth, you're realizing that it's kind of first, it's very competitive. Second, the tracking becomes very hard. And third, you're probably those cohorts of users, they're gonna be all the time moving. So what you need to do actually is now adapt to a new paradigm where Web3 comes into play, and instead of customers as email IDs, they're now wallets that you can interact with. But they're also people, as you mentioned, right? So these people as customers want to feel some more belongingness. Mm-hmm. And this is where I think the hype, yes, on the crypto bros kind of cooled down, but on the brand side, these conversations are happening all the time, and we see more and more coming in.
So, Gerli, what do you think? Is NFT something for you? And we also actually had an AR campaign with Gerli, so you can check on her Instagram, which is Gerli Music. You can check that out, and if you could, talk about this campaign a bit more.
Yeah, so for my last single, basically, and I think just as everything is getting more digital, you know, and now there's this whole theory, which I totally agree with, that it's almost like we're all becoming avatars, whether we like it or not. Even just the way that you are on whatever, Facebook, Instagram, we're all becoming avatars. And some people are making it more creative for themselves. And I think digital fashion very much feeds into that, you know, where you don't have these real life restrictions, obviously the environmental topics around it. But yeah, for my last single, I created this huge pink robot called Joy. It's made out of trash, but it's this very high-tech, almost like a Japanese type character. And it's a real-life character with real-life fashion collection. And also we designed a digital character with Kirke and used it as an AR filter as kind of part of the promotion. But not even so much the promotion, but Joy, the name of the character, kind of says what this energy is about. So we made like a digital joy, Kirke created digital joy, and it's a filter where you can put joy, this pink character, anywhere in your world where you find joy. So people were, you know, showing it, there's a joy with their morning coffee, there is a joy wherever they can find it. And you know, I would basically just on my Instagram repost, which was great for my reach, and also allowed me to create a really cool sense of community where the audience could go connect with their joy and almost be a part of the creation process that way.
Mm-hmm. Now, Fo, it all sounds so exciting. It sounds like, why aren't fashion brands already doing that? You have the security part, you have the creativity, you can see people are really, they want to have sort of like gamified experiences. So what do you think is holding the fashion brands back?
So guys, I feel like I'm the pessimist here, the party pooper in this conversation. I touched on it earlier. I feel like there's a big demand from consumers and there's a big uphill trend on this right now, and we can't keep up with that. Supply chains are complicated. Even if you're wearing a jumper right now, it's probably had about 10 touch points, 10 suppliers. So if you want to incorporate digital transformation there, such as 3D, probably you need all 10 suppliers to be able to manage that tool, which isn't a realistic goal for us right now. You mentioned earlier, George, about this digital twin and the wallet. I think that's something that we would love to work towards, but with brands right now just coming out of the virus, out of coronavirus, and really on survival mode, really near-storing their supply chain closer to home. And most brands have moved their supply chains away from Asia, closer into Europe. They're thinking about surviving. They're thinking about investing their money on new suppliers, new materials, product development, and so there's less demand from us for these digital tools. So I think it's a case of we're not ready yet, and also a good streamline of tools that are bespoke to our industry, giving us value. The 3D tool solutions at the moment, like Clo and Browseware, are great, and very specific and give us really decent value adds. And we need more. We need more tools that actually give us that solution, that give us that value, that work with our everyday operations.
But did you see also some change after or during COVID? Because there was some digital transformation, really hot trend moving at that time. So did you also see that in fashion?
3D transformation went like this in COVID, much like Zoom did and video calls and all of that kind of stuff. So that really helped, and it's kind of plateaued. I think a little bit decline. As I said, a lot of companies just don't have the money to continue investing because it's not just the tool itself. It's building the team that have the knowledge. But the exciting thing for us is we've got new generations coming in. And if you look at what they're studying at university within the fashion curriculum, it's the 3D tools. So it's becoming more standard. So they're going to come into our workplaces and have that capability to follow that through. So I feel like we're getting there, but we're not at the right pace yet.
Maybe to add here, I think I agree with you that many brands at the moment are actually facing the question, like, will I actually invest money now into materials, or will I spend money on a Web3 campaign? I agree on that. But it actually becomes more and more critical to find innovative ways to show your brand. And because of the clutterness of the market and many brands out there, you will be anyway left behind if you don't do something about it. So part of the key here is really to understand that also going into Web3, going into 3D, it's already easy. There are generators that you can use. You can use DALL-E from OpenAI and create images from there. You can actually create content on scale, and you can actually create a lot about innovative marketing. And then actually you might end up in a situation that your marketing budget decreases. And then you have more time to focus on actually building the products. And then if you start selling actually more digital clothes, then you understand that actually you don't need that materials anymore. So that is it's an interesting shift that it might be also the way out of this game of building more supply chains, building more products.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's kind of what I feel.
I should have mentioned a more positive note. Digital transformation gives us transparency, which gives us greater traceability, which gives us greater accountability. And when we're accountable as businesses to compliance, we often change. And as you know, the industry is not famous for our most positive impact on the environment or social matters. So I think in Europe in the past 24 months, there's been about 7 or 8 new compliances that have come out around about the data that you need to share. We need digital transformation to support that. We cannot be doing that with pen and paper and WhatsApp and emails. So that's a good point about, it's not just about the 3D, it's also about all the data and how can we share that? If a product has a product passport and it has all the information, with the click of a button, can I share that with a PR company? Can I share that with my web guys for the copy? Is it going to reduce costs, reduce time to market, which is always our biggest thing. So yeah, I agree with you. There's a 360 kind of opportunity for us.
And the other fact is you can actually test your ideas very quickly. And if you can do that, then it actually saves you from the big mistakes that.
Yeah, maybe on
brands.
that, Gerli, what kind of impact do you see on designers and artists, and also testing maybe some?
Yeah, actually, listening to these guys talk, I wanted to say that I had a call with a really cool designer a few days ago. Her name is Extended Reality, I think, and she kind of goes about it a different way because she doesn't come from, now I need to make all my real items into digital items. So she's a 3D designer, and she calls her collection Phygital. Have you heard? Physical plus digital. And what she's done as a designer, she's created all these crazy world, fantastical characters, and then she's using those worlds to kind of promote her product, which is a simple necklace that every woman would want to wear. So she's gotten really smart about it. And yeah, industries are really slow to change. But I think there's a whole wave of people that are kind of like the new artists of the new era where everything is digital. And they're kind of making their digital worlds and then creating a few very simple physical products that they can sell. So everything's changing now.
Yeah, it's exciting times.
Everything's changing.
I agree.
Yeah, that is for sure. I have also seen that when we just talk about digital, then it seems something of a totally alien for people, when actually I see a lot of value also in digital. It sounds a crazy word, but it's sort of merging those two worlds together. So we have our own world, it's also the AR, we have our own world, and then it's really simple, or you can talk about how simple it is, but maybe there is a simple way to add a layer to that. Or we are already buying garments, and one of our clients also did an NFT to the t-shirt that they were selling. So they sold the t-shirt, but you also will get an NFT as also a proof of that they have bought this t-shirt, and then they will get some exclusive offers on that. But yeah, coming back to the sort of not a negative, but just a real life right now. So Gerli, you had good thoughts and you have good experience with the AR campaign. So how are people taking that? What is complicated, what is not?
I would say the AR campaign was great, and we kind of did it as an experimental thing between us. So that's really cool. And the items that you made digital, we're in talks with the different digital boutiques, where hopefully it will be, it's a physical character, physical fashion, but also we'll have the digital fashion. So the AR filter was pretty cool. I think it was pretty straightforward. I was surprised to find out that, some people didn't get it still, even though it's really, I didn't think it was like a special thing, but turns out it is a little bit. So you kind of have to give people, what's it called? You make them a little video tutorial of how to use it or whatever. So I just sent that out to my email list. But I also had a really interesting experience with NFTs, which I think were released maybe like a year ago or something. And I was really excited to make NFTs because I thought that, oh, wow, finally, it doesn't have to be a painting. I can create this world, it has poetry about it, music, it's audio, visual. And I was really surprised to find that my audience absolutely hated it. They did not get it, like just a lot of attacks. I believe in it. I believe in the technology. And I think from what I took from that was that I think NFTs kind of need to be a project. You need to have something. It's not just a pretty thing. But I think like Gary Vee has really interesting approach to that, where he just had like a hand-sketched little squirrel, and then you would buy the squirrel, so you'd still have to buy the NFT, but then you'd get like a 45-minute conversation with him, or whatever, and that little hand-drawn squirrel can be worth a lot. So it's more about kind of projects, communities, and maybe you sell this NFT as like a ticket or basically, it's something. Yeah, it's a token of exchange, not just kind of something that has inherent value in itself, which I still think it does, because I don't see physical or digital art from an artist taking any less time or commitment. So I think the world is going to catch up.
Yeah, George, what kind of sort of ways to utilize the NFTs are there?
Yeah,
for
indeed,
both artists and brands.
When I listen to Gerli and Gary Vee, actually, I'm a big fan of him. He is always asking, like, what's the utility of those NFTs? Like, you cannot just launch an NFT collection and expect that everybody will just buy it and that's it. What you actually need to understand that you need some kind of a roadmap, at least, meaning that NFT could unlock a future value for eShop, either a discount or maybe a special ticket, an event, or even a content that is only available for those people. And when you create NFTs, that means that you also create a community, which is great. Yes, that community can scream when Lambo all the time, but if done properly, you can actually create a very solid community that could then be your ambassador, your brand ambassador. So in that regards, utility has become the primary conversation here. And how can we actually use the NFT as a tool and a way, a key to a new digital experience for the customers. And then, in the same time, creating, actually, and empowering those users to create also on top of it. And that's also what the fabricants are doing. They have actually a co-creation tool via NFTs, where the community is building products, they're building collections together with the brands. And that opens up, I think, a whole new chapter for brand building and NFTs is just part of the whole Web3 aspect of things.
So now, if you step a bit closer to the end consumer away from the supply chain, and if you think about, say, take one of your clients, if this brand would start now with some sort of Web3 campaign, how do you see the consumers would react to this, their current target customers? Is there a difference?
I think it depends on the brand's customers and the brand's position. Like you were saying earlier, you were a little bit shocked that your followers didn't really get it. And I guess it just depends who are those end customers. We have so much to learn about who us as a species really want from this. What is the value add for all of this? Do we want these 3D models, 3D versions of clothes to really make purchasing decisions? Or do we want to use them just for fun? Do we want to use them in an experience space, in which case they don't need to be so intricate and detailed like the real thing? So I think it's a case of, this is really exciting and there's so much opportunity and there's definitely the tech to support it. But for us, we're trying to understand what does the end consumer want and how can we give that to them so that we're not just doing it for trend purposes.
Yeah, on that, I can actually tell you in the startup day in Tartu Creative Industries, we have actually an example of AR filters, which is a gamified, as you said, if the target customers are not really maybe ready for it, then just like make it fun for them and they will want to try. So yeah, if you go there, there's a not really small. There's a huge TV where you can see yourself wearing different digital items of the same designers that they have in the creative industries incubator. So from my experience with Scopa Studio as well, I can say that it definitely depends on the target customer. Very often I've had to say to the client itself who actually wants to do a bit more than just tell them like, hey, think about your target, think about your clientele. Like, how would they react to this? Even as a brand, if you hear all of that, this is amazing. I just want to try it now, like yesterday. But you have to. It's still a business decision. You have to think about the potential reaction. You have to think about maybe start with simpler things and then grow if that works well. And on that, Gerli, how do you see in the future, or how does that or these two experiences help you? To create maybe new experiences, or you don't want to do anything digital anymore?
I'm definitely going to do lots of digital things. I'm only getting more interested in it, and then just the tools, the freedom that these different tools give you as a creator. I can be physical, I can be digital. This character that I've created for my current single Joy, it's a big pink robot avatar. Sometimes I'm not even playing it. So I can go with Joy, or Joy can go be DJing in Japan and like South of America at the same time. So is she even real? It kind of becomes this like performance art. It all just kind of like blends to be this one thing. So for me as a creator, all the extra materials, all the extra playing fields that I can get, I will get them, or I'll grab them. And you were talking before about fashion, kind of photo shoots. Producing a photo shoot is crazy. So now I'm really looking for this digital fashion to also work better on video, because like in video it still doesn't look super real. And I think the world is getting like less photo-based and more video-based currently. So that's always the thing. But yeah, even just it takes away these limitations from your creativity, and I don't have to worry about materials and even selling them. You don't have to worry about materials. It can be unisex, since so much of the world is kind of, all of those lines are getting blurred. So for me, definitely very exciting and going to keep exploring.
And what have you learned from those two experiences? What now you will try to make better or change for the future?
I would definitely. I think currently I wouldn't release an NFT that would just be a pretty thing. Even though I believe in them, and I as a customer would love to maybe purchase something like this from my favorite artists. But I definitely think more community-based, more, like so that it actually does something. There's a story behind it, or like you can get something from it. So I wouldn't just treat it as a pretty piece of art.
George, would you have some sort of specific suggestions for Gerli how to, if she would want to have her next NFT campaign, what should she do?
I think the first one is don't call it an NFT. Where you use the right word, it's an experience. You are actually providing a new experience for your fans, and this is how you can actually activate it. But I think most importantly, you need to identify maybe in your community the ones that could actually translate the message correctly and mostly the most engaging way and understandable way. So we are here in a shift of generations, and I'm not sure we actually understand what exactly the 20-year-olds are saying. That's a big question. So you might want to actually consider a lot of those 20 years old part of your team that will actually translate this message correctly, effectively to your customers and your fans. Again, this is a bit shifting the perspective again from you actually owning the brand, but actually giving out a bit of that, your brand, and providing people to play with it and have that experience. And just don't push that NFT if you want to, but you can still provide that experience and engagement to your fans.
Yeah, maybe there is some sort of a small taboo on some certain, well, not even taboo, but it's just like overused terms that we're starting to have some negative, like.
There's always about boom and busts in these cycles. That's absolutely normal. It's the same goes to many other technologies. But I think at the end of the day, the end consumer will get an item, a physical item that it owns, and he doesn't need to know what kind of technology is behind it, right? He actually owns it. He can brag about it, and he can interact with it. And that's kind of what is the conversation I think is all about.
And what kind of advice would you give to, let's say, FO's clients, fashion brands, how to start, or if and?
I think, like you mentioned, to start something small is the best way. Like even opening a Discord server doesn't take too much of a time. It's more about first educate yourself, be aware of what the trends are, what are the risks are. Like there are also risks on probably on the regulation side, and although NFTs and digital collectibles as well as considered digital assets anyway, so they're not like digital, like photos and so forth. So there's still room to utilize. And I think for brands, still first set your right goals, your right expectations, educate yourself on the topic, and try to have a long-term vision of where you want to go with this. That's kind of what it's all about. But definitely intertwine this with your own marketing goals. Maybe going to another market or going to another product and testing the product is a way to utilize Web3.
Awesome. So now as the last sort of round, a question for you all. Where do you see the industry in, let's say, 10, 20 years? Fo?
I think we're going to see a lot more 3D sampling. And I think that you're going to start seeing those 3D models in the e-commerce stores of brands. So touching a little bit on experience for the consumer, looking at products as a 3D model, allowing you to customize them, changing colors, maybe changing the textiles. The brands would have the power to let you do that and see what the feedback is without having to invest in all of those products. Like you were saying, it can cut down your photography shoot costs. That's a huge cost for a small business.
And not just money.
Time,
energy,
creative direction,
vision.
all of this. Yeah, if you're launching a collection, let's say winter next year, you should be ready now with your samples. It takes so much to get that product to market physically. So if you can just cut out that part and get the 3D elements into a store, and like George was saying, like start small and and be agile and always stay in touch with your customers. What do they want? It won't be the same for every brand. And like you said, do we know what the new generations want? Did they know yet? You know, they're so young. What's going to be valuable to them in the future? So I definitely think we're going to see more 3D as a consumer. I hope that we do because it's a great tool. I would say 80% of our portfolio use 3D, but bear in mind that they're luxury brands that sell around the world. So they have the staff, they have the skill set, and they have the money to implement that. And they also have the end consumer who has the knowledge and tools to kind of use that on an end consumer basis. But on a positive note, I do think it's getting there. And I think it's really exciting to see it come to the end consumer. And hopefully it will help with their buying decisions. It will reduce waste. I hope it will reduce exchanges as well. You know, typical company for fast fashion, if any of you know ASOS, they have an 87 return rate. So that's a lot of waste, and that's a lot of products that then don't get sold. You know, where do they end up? What's the impact on the environment? So there's a lot of positives.
Yeah, definitely. This is the reason I'm excited about that, because of the massive sustainability and environmental impact aspect to digital transformation. And Kerli, for you, where do you see yourself in the future as now going on a way to being a digital artist?
There's definitely some digital artists popping up already, I see, that are like blowing up online where it's just not even a person, you know. So I could be just a songwriter and have somebody else kind of be on stage, which is really cool and tempting. And I'm probably going to dabble in that as well. And like a year ago, we actually were trying to start a project like that, but then figured it was just too much energy spent. But yeah, I see it getting more digital, but what's interesting in the world is like when pendulum like swings one way, it kind of always tends to swing back the other way. So I also see like a wave of just hyper simple stuff where people are just, listen, like this is too much. I just read an article where they said that vinyl sales are now bigger than CD sales. So vinyl was before CDs, right? So people are kind of going back to those
old ways.
So we don't really know, you know, it might, you know, there's Britney Spears, but then there's Nirvana to kind of counter it. So it's going to be also interesting to see if everything's getting so digital, what's going to be there to counter it, because I think that's kind of how energy works.
Sure. And George?
Yeah, looking at the stats, they project about 600 billion for Metaverse, more total market. Half of it will be gaming, and in the next 10 years we'll have ultra gaming places and spaces. Now Roblox, also with massive amount of user base, Decentraland. Those convergence of gaming spaces and spaces to live and work and learn will start more and more, and this is where actually kind of what is going to happen probably with the next few years, and maybe faster with the acceleration of AI-generated models and worlds too. And finally, maybe as Keanu Reeves says, like young people don't care if it's real or not, it's good, and it makes you a better human there. Maybe that's how we're gonna go.
Yeah, maybe it will be just a normal way for us to be in the future. We won't be talking about, oh, is it digital or not? It's just how it is. It's just getting into our lives. Thank you so much for joining the panel. I hope you had some great insights and some inspiration. Do you have some questions from the audience?
I do have some questions from the audience as well. We had one question was, is there any additional value to digital twin fashion pieces in addition to prestige and hype? Is there any additional value besides prestige and hype?
Well, just one answer or?
I think this is also faux, exactly.
Yeah,
it's
faux,
from product development, not to,
Well, maybe
it can be in the whole supply chain.
I've got an angle on the data. So for the digital twin, the data is valuable to us as a supply chain, for compliance, for end consumer. So from us, yeah, that's super interesting. And I don't know if anyone knows, but the EU are bringing out mandatory product passports for textiles in 2 years. So if any companies want to be selling in the EU, they will need to have some kind of product passport. So it's not just valuable for internal purposes, but if you want to sell in the EU, you will need to have that transparency. So for us, digital twins are up there as a priority.
Okay, another question, this is actually one of my own. Seeing how everything is going with AI now, and we're in a digital space as well going with this, like how far do you see in like 10 years, or how many years till we have AI fashion designers basically, an AI will make the product for Metaverse or Roblox or whatever, and then you have to deal with that sort of situation as well.
Maybe I can, they're already here.
Yeah.
We already have ChatGPT-4, analyzes very well text and images. It's a matter of maybe months, even maybe 6 months, a year, that we actually have their own kind of brand that lives, its own AI life and has its own kind of real community out of it.
Okay.
And maybe to point this about the digital twins as well, is that actually also car manufacturers are using a lot of digital twins. It's more than just hype. You can actually simulate things with digital twins. You can see like what actually happening inside of the material and so forth. It's not just only to brag about it on Instagram.
Okay, cool. Thank you. That's all the questions we have time for. But thank you, all the panelists. Big round of applause, please. Thank you.